What do you mean the lock doesn't work? Garrett Rivers twisted his key again, harder this time, his sun-kissed face flushing red as the mechanism refused to budge. His yellow suitcase stood beside him on the pristine stone steps of his Palo Alto estate, still tagged from the Maldives, from 2 perfect weeks with Vanessa, from encrypted calls with divorce lawyers, from finalizing his plan to take everything from Claire. He'd rehearsed his devastated husband performance on the entire flight home, perfecting the wounded expression he'd use when he discovered her alleged betrayal. But his key wouldn't turn. "That's impossible," he muttered, jiggling the handle. "Nothing." He stepped back, confused, and that's when his stomach dropped. A bright red sold sign stood planted in his manicured lawn, flapping mockingly in the afternoon breeze. No, 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 no. Garrett's voice cracked as he stumbled backward, his phone already in his shaking hand. This wasn't Claire's inherited property. This was his house. The $12 million estate he bought 5 years before they even met. His sanctuary. His leverage. His asset. "Amy? Amy, it's Garrett Rivers," he said when his realtor finally answered, his words tumbling out in a panic. "There's a sold sign on my property. My front lawn. What the hell is going on?" The silence on the other end lasted too long. "Mr. Rivers." Amy's voice was careful, professional. "The house closed 3 days ago. The sale was initiated by your wife under community property." "My wife?" Garrett's vision blurred. "That's not possible. The house is an MY name. She can't just—" "Actually, sir, in California, after 6 years of marriage." The phone nearly slipped from Garrett's hand. Little did he know, the woman he'd been plotting to destroy had already dismantled his entire world, and this was only the beginning. To understand how Garrett Rivers walked straight into his own annihilation, we have to go back to 6 months earlier, to the day everything started unraveling. Before we get into that, here's a special shout-out to Marcus Kobayashi watching from Tokyo, Japan. Thank you for being one of our amazing supporters and engaging with the channel. A character in the story was named in your honor. If you'd also like to get a shout-out in the next video, please like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, and you'll be given a shout-out. Thank you. Now let's get into the story. The organ music echoed through Grace Cathedral's vaulted ceilings as Garrett Rivers stood beside his wife Claire, her hand trembling in his. Richard Montgomery's casket sat at the altar, draped in white lilies and surrounded by hundreds of mourners, tech executives, venture capitalists, politicians, the kind of wealth that didn't announce itself but filled every pew with quiet power. Garrett squeezed Claire's hand, playing the supportive husband perfectly, but his eyes weren't on the casket. They were scanning the crowd, mentally cataloging the net worth and attendance. Thomas Chin from Sequoia Capital. The Vanderbilt family from Pacific Heights. Richard's business partners who'd built empires alongside him. He would have wanted something smaller, Claire whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Just family." "I know, sweetheart," Garrett murmured, pulling her closer. But he touched so many lives. What he was really thinking, *80 million, maybe more. And half of it could be mine, *. Back at their Palo Alto estate that evening, Claire collapsed on the sofa in her black dress, staring blankly at the fireplace. Garrett brought her chamomile tea, kissed her forehead, and retreated to his office with his laptop. "I just need to handle some work emails," he called out. "Take your time, baby." The moment his office door clicked shut, Garrett's fingers flew across the keyboard. California Community Property Law Inheritance. The search results loaded instantly. His eyes scanned hungrily. Property acquired during marriage. Equal division. Separate property exceptions. He clicked deeper. Inherited property, divorce, California. Generally, inheritances are considered separate property and not subject to community property division, he read aloud, his jaw tightening. "However, Garrett," Claire's voice drifted from the living room. "Can you come sit with me?" "1 second. He bookmarked 3 legal websites and closed the laptop. When he returned to the living room, his expression was perfectly calibrated concern. 2 days later, Garrett sat across from his financial advisor, David Chun, at a Starbucks on University Avenue in downtown Palo Alto. The morning rush swirled around them, students from Stanford, tech workers on laptops, the ambient noise perfect for a private conversation. "I need you to be straight with me," Garrett said, leaning forward. "What are we talking about here?" "Ballpark." David glanced at his tablet, then lowered his voice. Based on the preliminary estate valuation, 80 million, give or take. The Napa Vineyard alone is worth 12. The Manhattan penthouse, another 15. Then there's the investment portfolio, the commercial real estate in Seattle, the venture capital stakes. Garrett's coffee sat untouched. And it all goes to Claire. As the sole heir, yes. Richard's will was very clear. David paused. Garrett, I have to ask, why are you asking me this instead of her? She's grieving. I'm trying to handle the practical matters so she doesn't have to think about money right now. The lie came smoothly. I'm just trying to understand what we're dealing with. David nodded slowly. You're a good husband. That evening, while Claire showered, Garrett found the estate documents on her desk, a thick manila folder her father's attorneys had delivered. He flipped through quickly, his pulse quickening with each page. The Napa property deed, stock certificates, bank statements showing accounts with 8-figure balances. Then he found it, a document with irrevocable trust agreement stamped across the top. His stomach dropped as he read. The inheritance wasn't directly in Claire's name. It was held in a trust established by Richard 20 years ago, with Claire as the sole beneficiary. Protected, untouchable, son of a, he caught himself, shoving the documents back into the folder as the shower shut off. Over the following weeks, Garrett's resentment festered. He'd smile at Claire over breakfast, hold her while she cried, attend endless meetings with estate attorneys and accountants. But at night, alone in his office, he researched, challenging an irrevocable trust California, proving spouse unfit in divorce, emotional damages divorce settlement. The deeper he dug, the clearer it became. He couldn't touch the trust. But maybe he didn't need to. Maybe there was another way. If Claire was proven unstable, unfaithful, or unfit. If he could manufacture a narrative where SHE was the villain and he was the victim. On a Thursday night in late August, Garrett opened Facebook and typed a name he hadn't searched in years, Vanessa Chun. Her profile loaded. Still beautiful. Still in San Jose. Relationship status, single. His cursor hovered over the send message button. Asterisk, hey stranger. Been thinking about you. Would love to catch up if you're around. Asterisk. He hit send before he could reconsider. She replied within an hour. Asterisk, Garrett Rivers. Wow. Coffee sometime. Asterisk. Asterisk, absolutely. How's Saturday? Asterisk. Perfect. Garrett deleted the message thread and cleared his browser history. In the bedroom, Claire slept peacefully, exhausted from another day of grief and estate paperwork. He slid into bed beside her, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. If he couldn't get the inheritance legally, maybe he could create a situation where Claire lost everything instead. A messy divorce. Public scandal. Claims of infidelity. Hers, not his. With the right strategy, the right evidence, the right witnesses, Vanessa could be useful. An old flame rekindled while his wife was emotionally distant. A sympathetic narrative. Maybe even an alibi for future plans. Garrett's mind raced with possibilities, calculating angles and scenarios like a chess game. Beside him, Claire shifted in her sleep, murmuring something incoherent. He felt nothing. No guilt. No hesitation. Just cold, focused determination. Have you ever discovered that someone close to you had completely different intentions than you thought? How did you find out? Share your story in the comments below. Garrett spotted Vanessa through the window of Phil's Coffee on California Avenue before she saw him. She looked exactly as he remembered. Dark hair falling past her shoulders, that confident smile, the way she moved through space like she owned it. She ordered at the counter, and when she turned, their eyes met. Garrett. She crossed the distance between them, pulling him into a hug that lasted a moment too long. You look good. So do you. He gestured to a corner table, away from the crowd of Stanford students. Thanks for meeting me. They settled into the rhythm of old lovers catching up, careers, mutual friends, the ways their lives had diverged since college. But beneath the surface, Garrett was testing, probing, seeing how receptive she was to something more. So you're married now, Vanessa said, stirring her mint mojito coffee. How's that going? Garrett's expression shifted, perfectly calibrated. Honestly, it's complicated. Claire's been distant. Ever since her father passed, she's just shut down emotionally. I'm basically a roommate at this point. Vanessa's eyes softened with sympathy. I'm sorry. That must be lonely. It is. He reached across the table, letting his hand rest near hers. Being here with you. It reminds me what it feels like to actually connect with someone. Her fingers moved slightly closer to his. I've missed you too. When they parted an hour later, Vanessa's number was saved in his phone under a fake name, and they'd made plans to meet again the following week. The next morning, Garrett sat in the sleek downtown San Francisco office of Marcus Feldman, one of the Bay Area's most aggressive divorce attorneys. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the financial district, and Marcus's reputation preceded him. He dismantled some of Silicon Valley's biggest marriages. "Let me be direct," Marcus said, leaning back in his leather chair. "Your wife's inheritance is in an irrevocable trust. We can't touch it, but that doesn't mean you're walking away empty-handed." "Explain," Garrett said. "California is a no-fault divorce state, but how assets are divided depends heavily on the narrative we build. If we can demonstrate emotional alienation, neglect, or infidelity on her part, we position you as the victim. That influences everything: spousal support, asset division, even public perception." Garrett leaned forward. "How do we build that narrative?" Marcus's smile was thin. "Documentation. Therapy records showing her emotional withdrawal. Witnesses who can testify to her neglect of the marriage. Evidence of questionable behavior. Unexplained absences, suspicious communications. And if that evidence doesn't exist, then we create circumstances where it does." Marcus slid a business card across the desk. "This is a private investigator I work with. Very discreet. Very effective. He can help document patterns that support your case." "What about my assets? The house, my investments?" "We'll need to protect those. I'd recommend moving funds into offshore accounts, small amounts over time to avoid triggering alerts. We can also explore putting certain assets in a trust or transferring them to a business entity." Garrett's pulse quickened. This was real. This was happening. Over the following weeks, Garrett opened an account in the Cayman Islands, transferring $10,000 here, $15,000 there, amounts small enough to avoid immediate scrutiny. He met Vanessa twice more, their conversations growing more intimate, more confessional. He positioned himself as the devoted husband trapped in a loveless marriage, and she responded exactly as he'd hoped. "I think I need to get away for a while," he told Claire one evening over dinner at their Palo Alto estate. "Work's offering a leadership retreat in Chicago. 2 weeks. I know the timing isn't great, but you should go," Claire said quietly, pushing food around her plate. She looked exhausted, hollowed out by grief. "Honestly, I could use some time alone anyway." Guilt flickered somewhere deep in Garrett's chest, but he crushed it. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." That night, while Claire slept, Garrett booked flights to the Maldives, 2 tickets, under his name and a fake name for Vanessa. He downloaded an encrypted messaging app and created a group chat with Marcus Feldman and the private investigator. Asterisk timeline. 2 weeks in Maldives with V. Document everything: photos, receipts. Create narrative of me seeking emotional support outside marriage. Upon return, we file. Asterisk. Marcus's response came within minutes. Asterisk understood. "I'll prepare the paperwork. We'll paint her as the distant, emotionally unavailable spouse. You're the victim here." Asterisk. Garrett stared at the glowing screen, his reflection ghostly in the dark room. Beside him, Claire's breathing was soft and steady. They'd been married 6 years. 6 years of shared dinners and lazy Sunday mornings, of inside jokes and quiet moments. None of it mattered now, not compared to $80 million. The morning of his departure, Garrett wheeled his yellow suitcase to the car while Claire stood on the front steps in her robe, coffee mug in hand. "Call me when you land," she said. "Every night," he promised, kissing her forehead. "I love you. I love you too." The words felt hollow in his mouth as he drove toward San Francisco International Airport, his phone already buzzing with a text from Vanessa. Asterisk can't wait. "This is going to be amazing." Asterisk. At the airport, Garrett checked in alone, Vanessa boarding separately to maintain appearances. As he walked toward security, his yellow suitcase rolling behind him, his phone loaded with encrypted plans and offshore account details, Garrett felt a surge of confidence. He was in control. He had a strategy. And in 2 weeks, he'd return ready to take everything Claire thought was safe. If this story is hitting different, don't just watch, subscribe. Most people scroll past, but the ones who stay? They're the real ones who want to see how this plays out. Are you one of them? The overwater bungalow stretched out over turquoise water, so clear Garrett could see fish swimming beneath the glass floor panels. Vanessa stood on the deck in a white sundress, laughing as warm ocean spray misted her face. Paradise. Absolute paradise. This place is incredible, she called back to him. I can't believe we're actually here. Garrett joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You deserve it. He kissed her neck, then pulled out his phone. Smile. The photo captured them perfectly. Intimate. Happy. The kind of image that told a story. Garrett reviewed it with satisfaction. Evidence. Every romantic dinner, every sunset walk, every stolen kiss, all documented. All part of the narrative he was building. Later that afternoon, while Vanessa napped, Garrett locked himself in the bathroom with his laptop and opened the encrypted video call. Marcus Feldman's face appeared on screen, his San Francisco office visible behind him. How's Chicago? Marcus asked with a knowing smirk. Productive, Garrett replied, keeping his voice low. I've got dozens of photos. Timestamps on everything. This is going to look like I was driven to seek emotional connection elsewhere because of her neglect. Perfect. We'll frame it as a cry for help, not infidelity. You were emotionally abandoned. Marcus glanced at something off-screen. The offshore transfers are complete. 35,000 moved without triggering any alerts. We'll need to. A knock on the bathroom door made Garrett's heart jump. Babe? You okay in there? Yeah, just dealing with some work stuff, he called back. Give me 5 minutes. Take your time. Garrett waited until her footsteps retreated, then returned to the screen. We need to be careful. When I get back, we move fast. File immediately, before she has time to prepare. Agreed. I'll have everything ready. 3,000 miles away in Palo Alto, Claire Montgomery sat at her kitchen table, staring at her laptop screen with trembling hands. The credit card statement glowed in front of her, line after line of charges that made no sense. Conrad Maldives Rangali Island, $4, $8.47. International call to Cayman Islands, $47. Conrad Maldives Rangali Island, $3, $200. Her finger scrolled down. More resort charges. Spa treatments. Romantic dinners. 2 scuba diving excursions. Chicago, she whispered to the empty house. He said he was in Chicago. She grabbed her phone and dialed Garrett's number. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Hey, it's me. Call me back when you get this. It's important. He didn't call back. 2 hours later, Claire sat across from Rachel Kim, a private investigator whose office occupied a modest space above a coffee shop in downtown Palo Alto. Rachel's reputation was impeccable. Former FBI, specialized in financial crimes and marital investigations. I need to know where my husband really is, Claire said, sliding the printed credit card statement across the desk. And who he's with. Rachel studied the charges, her expression neutral. The Conrad in the Maldives. Very romantic destination. Not typically a corporate retreat location. She looked up. Mrs. Rivers, I need to ask, are you prepared for what I might find? Claire's jaw tightened. Yes. Give me 48 hours. Rachel called back in 24. Mrs. Rivers, we need to meet. In person. Now. In Rachel's office, Claire stared at surveillance photos spread across the desk. Garrett and a beautiful woman with dark hair, laughing over dinner, walking on the beach, kissing on a private deck. The timestamps showed they'd been together for 6 days. Her name is Vanessa Chun, Rachel said. College girlfriend. They've been meeting regularly for the past 2 months. Coffee shops in Palo Alto, dinners in San Jose. But there's more. She slid additional documents forward. Your husband met with Marcus Feldman 3 weeks ago. He's a divorce attorney. Very aggressive. Specializes in high net worth cases. Rachel paused. There's also evidence of offshore account activity. Multiple transfers to the Cayman Islands, deliberately structured to avoid detection. Claire's hands were shaking. He's planning to divorce me. And from what I can tell, he's building a case to paint you as the problem. The Vanessa relationship appears calculated, timed, photographed, documented. Rachel's voice softened. I'm sorry, but you need to understand, he's not having an affair. He's staging one. The room tilted. Claire gripped the edge of the desk. My father's estate. The inheritance. He's after. That's what I thought initially. But here's the interesting part. Rachel pulled up another document. Your inheritance is in an irrevocable trust. He can't touch it. Which means either his attorneys are incompetent, Or there's something else going on. Claire's mind raced. My lawyer. I need to call my lawyer. Jennifer Park's office overlooked University Avenue, sleek and modern with abstract art on the walls. Jennifer herself was sharp-eyed and direct, with a reputation for protecting her clients ruthlessly. Your inheritance is completely safe, Jennifer confirmed, reviewing Rachel's report. The trust your father established is bulletproof. Garrett has no claim to any of it. Then why is he? Because he's not thinking clearly. He sees $80 million and he wants a piece, even though legally it's impossible. Jennifer leaned forward. But here's what he doesn't understand about California community property law. She pulled out a legal pad and began writing. You've been married 6 years. Under California law, all assets acquired during the marriage are community property, split 50-50 in a divorce. But here's the key. That includes assets one spouse owned before the marriage if the other spouse can demonstrate they contributed to its maintenance or increase in value. The house, Claire said slowly. His house. The one he bought before we met. Exactly. You've lived there for 6 years. Maintained it. Hosted events. Made improvements. You have a legal claim to half its value. And his boat. His cars. His brokerage accounts. Jennifer's smile was cold. While he's been plotting to take your protected inheritance, he's left his own assets completely exposed. Claire stared at the legal pad, her devastation crystallizing into something harder, sharper. He wanted to destroy me financially. Yes. Can I do it to him first? Jennifer met her eyes. Absolutely. And we should move now, while he's still abroad thinking he's in control. Claire sat back in her chair, the investigator's photos scattered across the desk. Her husband kissing another woman in paradise while plotting her destruction. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of trust. All of it a lie. Then let's do it, Claire said, her voice steady now. Let's take everything he thought was safe. What would you do if you found out your partner was plotting against you like this? Would you confront them immediately or play the long game? Drop your answer below. The real estate agent's name was Patricia Chun, and she specialized in high-end properties in Palo Alto. She stood in the foyer of the estate, her practiced eye taking in the vaulted ceilings, the imported marble, the custom chandelier. $12 million is the floor, Patricia said, pulling out her tablet. In this market, with this location, we could list at 13 and still get multiple offers within 48 hours. List it at 11.9, Claire said firmly. I want it sold fast. This week if possible. Patricia's eyebrows rose. Mrs. Rivers, I have to ask. Does your husband know we're married in California? Community property state. I have every legal right to sell this house. Claire's voice was ice. The paperwork is in order. My attorney has reviewed everything. Can you do this or not? I can have it listed by this afternoon. Good. 2 hours later, Claire sat in Jennifer Park's office, signing document after document. Divorce petition. Financial disclosures. Exhibits documenting Garrett's offshore accounts. His meetings with Marcus Feldman, Rachel Kim's surveillance photos from the Maldives. This is comprehensive, Jennifer said, organizing the papers into neat stacks. We have proof of infidelity, evidence of financial misconduct, documentation of conspiracy to defraud. When we file this, Garrett won't have a leg to stand on. How long until he's served? I'll file this afternoon. Process server will deliver the papers the moment he lands at SFO. Jennifer paused. Are you sure you want to move this aggressively? Once we file, there's no going back. Claire thought of the photos. Garrett kissing Vanessa on that pristine beach, the two of them laughing over candlelit dinners while he plotted to destroy her financially and emotionally. File it, she said. File everything. The next morning, Claire stood at Berkeley Marina, watching as a marine surveyor inspected Garrett's boat. A sleek 42-foot sailboat he'd purchased 3 years into their marriage. The surveyor was there to provide a valuation for the sale. She's in excellent condition, the surveyor said, running his hand along the hull. You should get $400,000, maybe more. How fast can we sell it? I have 3 buyers already interested. One's offering cash, closing in 10 days. Take it. Claire's phone buzzed. Patricia Chun. Asterisk, 3 offers already. Highest is 12.2 M. All cash, no contingencies. Tech exec relocating from Seattle. Wants to close in 2 weeks. Asterisk. Claire typed back. Asterisk accepted. Let's close faster if possible. Asterisk. At the Tesla dealership in Palo Alto, The manager looked confused as Claire explained what she wanted. You want to sell your husband's Model S, but he's out of the country? It's community property. My name is on the registration along with his. I have the title right here. She slid the document across his desk. I want to sell it today. What's it worth? The manager reviewed the paperwork, then checked the car's specs on his computer. For a 2023 Model S in this condition, we can offer $85,000. I'll take it. Don't you want to discuss this with? No. Process the sale. That afternoon, Claire sat in a sterile conference room at Charles Schwab, meeting with Garrett's investment advisor, a nervous man named Tom, who kept glancing at the legal documents Claire had brought. Mrs. Rivers, I'm not comfortable liquidating half of your husband's portfolio without his explicit consent. California Family Code Section 1100. Jennifer Park said smoothly from beside Claire. Either spouse has the right to manage and control community property. This brokerage account was opened during the marriage using marital funds. Mrs. Rivers has every legal right to liquidate her half. Tom's face flushed. I'll need to consult with our legal department. Please do, Jennifer said. And while you're at it, explain to them that if you refuse, we'll file an emergency motion with the court and you'll be named as a party obstructing a legal community property transaction. She smiled pleasantly. Your choice. 30 minutes later, Claire walked out with authorization to transfer $1.4 million, half of Garrett's brokerage account, into a protected account in her name only. The house sale moved with stunning speed. The tech executive, desperate to relocate before his company's product launch, agreed to close in 11 days instead of 2 weeks. He paid for expedited title work, waived most contingencies, and wired the funds the moment escrow opened. Claire hired movers who worked through the night, packing her clothes, her father's photos, the few things she wanted to keep. Everything else, Garrett's belongings, the furniture they'd chosen together, the life they'd built, stayed for the new owner. On a Tuesday morning, 3 days before Garrett's scheduled return from the Maldives, Claire stood in the empty living room of the estate. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes floating in the silence. The walls echoed with 6 years of memories, dinner parties, quiet evenings, the morning after their wedding when they'd christened every room. All of it was gone now. Jennifer Park stood in the doorway. The sale closes in an hour. Once it does, the property is no longer yours to access. I know. Claire took one last look around, her expression unreadable. I'm ready. Outside, a locksmith was already changing the locks. A landscaper hammered a bright red "Sold" sign into the manicured lawn, the same lawn where Claire had once planned to plant a garden, where she'd imagined children playing someday. She pulled out her phone and composed a single text to Garrett. Asterisk, hope Chicago is going well. We need to talk when you get back. Asterisk. Then she blocked his number. Claire climbed into her car, a Range Rover she'd purchased that morning with her own money, and drove away from the Palo Alto estate without looking back. In her rearview mirror, the "Sold" sign grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Behind her, Garrett's entire life was being dismantled piece by piece. The house, sold. The boat, sold. The Tesla, sold. Half his investment portfolio, liquidated and protected in accounts he couldn't touch. And he had no idea. In 3 days, Garrett Rivers would return from paradise expecting to destroy his wife. Instead, he'd discover she'd already destroyed him. Some people say revenge is never the answer. Others say it's justice. What's your take on what Claire did? Was it right, or did she go too far? Garrett's phone buzzed as he collected his yellow suitcase from baggage claim at San Francisco International Airport. A text from Vanessa. Asterisk, already missing paradise. When can I see you again? Asterisk. He typed back quickly. Asterisk, soon. Need to handle some things at home first. The plan is in motion. Asterisk. Another text, this one to Marcus Feldman. Asterisk, just landed. Ready to finalize everything. Let's move forward. Asterisk. Garrett felt invincible as he walked to his car in the parking garage, his skin still warm from 2 weeks in the Maldives sun. He had the photos, the documentation, the narrative. Claire would never see it coming. By the end of the week, he'd have filed for divorce and positioned himself as the victim of her emotional neglect. The drive to Palo Alto took 40 minutes. Garrett spent it rehearsing his performance. The hurt in his voice when he'd tell her they needed to talk. The careful reveal that he'd been driven to seek connection elsewhere because of her distance. He'd cry if necessary, show vulnerability, make her feel guilty. He turned onto his street, mentally preparing for the confrontation. Then he saw the sign, bright red, impossible to miss. The word sold in bold white letters, planted in his manicured lawn like a gravestone. What the? Garrett's foot slammed on the brake. The car jerked to a stop in the middle of the street. His heart hammered against his ribs as he stared at his house. His house. The $12 million estate he'd bought 5 years before he even met Claire. He pulled into the driveway on autopilot, his hands shaking as he grabbed his suitcase and stumbled toward the front door. His key slid into the lock. It wouldn't turn. No, 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 no. He twisted harder, panic rising in his throat. The lock had been changed. He stepped back, his breath coming in short gasps. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Garrett's phone was in his hand before he consciously decided to call. Amy Rodriguez, his realtor, answered on the third ring. Amy, it's Garrett Rivers. There's a sold sign on my lawn. What the hell is going on? Silence. Then, carefully, Mr. Rivers, the house sold 10 days ago. It closed 3 days ago. I assumed you knew. Knew? How could I know? I was in Chicago for work. Sir, your wife listed the property. She had every legal right under California community property law. You've been married 6 years, and the house is an MY name. She can't just. Actually, Mr. Rivers, in California, after 6 years of marriage, both spouses have management and control rights over community property. Your wife presented all the proper documentation. The sale was completely legal. The phone nearly slipped from Garrett's hand. Where did she who bought it? A tech executive from Seattle. All cash offer. He's already taken possession. Garrett's vision tunneled. He ended the call and immediately dialed Claire. It rang 3 times. 4. He was about to hang up when she answered. Hello, Garrett. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Claire, what the hell did you do? There's a sold sign on our house. On your house, she corrected. The one you bought before we met. Well, the one you used to own. I sold it. Got an excellent offer, actually. $12.2 million. You can't. That's not legal. That's my house. Actually, it's community property. We've been married 6 years in California. I had every legal right. Just like I had every legal right to sell your boat, your Tesla, and liquidate half of your brokerage account. She paused. My half. Garrett's knees buckled. He leaned against the locked door, his free hand pressed to his forehead. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that while you were in the Maldives with Vanessa, not Chicago, Garrett, the Maldives, I discovered your entire plan. The offshore accounts, the meetings with Marcus Feldman, the scheme to frame me as an unfit spouse so you could claim half of my father's estate. The world tilted. How did you? The credit card statements were pretty revealing. Luxury resort charges tend to stand out. Her voice hardened. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Or did you just think I was too grief-stricken and stupid to figure it out? Claire, listen, I can explain. Don't. I've already filed for divorce. You'll be served the papers shortly. My attorney has comprehensive documentation of your affair, your attempts to hide assets, and your conspiracy to fabricate evidence against me. She paused. Oh, and Garrett, that inheritance you were scheming to take? It's in an irrevocable trust. You never had a claim to any of it. But your assets? Your house, your investments, your toys? All community property. All vulnerable. And I took my half. The line went dead. Garrett stood frozen on the driveway, his yellow suitcase beside him, staring at the sold sign. His phone rang. Marcus Feldman. Garrett, we have a serious problem, Marcus said the moment Garrett answered. Claire filed for divorce 4 weeks ago. She has photos of you and Vanessa, recordings of our conversations, documentation of the offshore accounts. Everything. That's not possible, Garrett whispered. We were careful. We used encrypted. It doesn't matter. She knew. She's been building a case while you were playing out your scheme. And Garrett, Marcus's voice dropped. Your prenup protects her inheritance completely. It's in a trust established by her father decades ago. You have no legal claim to any of it. But she has a legitimate claim to half of everything you own. How much? Garrett's voice cracked. Preliminary estimates? Between the house sale, the boat, the cars, the brokerage account, you're looking at losing $6 to $7 million in liquid assets, plus legal fees, plus potential criminal liability for conspiracy to commit fraud. Garrett sank to his knees on the driveway, his phone pressed to his ear. Criminal liability? You conspired with me to fabricate evidence and frame your wife. If she wants to press charges, you could face serious consequences. 2 hours later, Garrett sat on the edge of a sagging bed in a Motel 6, off Highway 101, surrounded by the smell of stale cigarettes and cheap disinfectant. His yellow suitcase lay open on the floor, resort clothes spilling out, a mocking reminder of paradise. His entire life had been dismantled in 2 weeks. The house, gone. The boat, gone. The Tesla, gone. Half his investment portfolio, transferred to accounts he couldn't touch. His reputation, destroyed. His marriage, over. And Claire, quiet, grieving Claire, had orchestrated all of it while he'd been sipping cocktails on a beach, believing he was in control. Garrett stared at his phone, at Vanessa's unanswered messages, at the divorce papers Marcus had just emailed him. He'd been so certain he was the hunter. But he'd been the prey all along. Real talk. This channel only grows when people like you decide to hit subscribe. Most viewers watch and move on. But if you're invested in seeing how this ends, prove it. Subscribe now, because part 2 is coming and you won't want to miss it. Garrett's thumb hovered over Vanessa's contact photo, a picture from the Maldives, her laughing against a sunset backdrop. He'd already called 6 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. Vanessa, it's me again. Please call me back. Something's happened, and I need to talk to you. Please. He sent another text. Asterisk, where are you? Claire knows everything. I need your help. Call me. Asterisk. The message showed as delivered, but never read. Garrett paced the cramped motel room, his mind spinning. Vanessa had been with him every step of the way. She'd understood. She'd supported him. She'd been his escape, his witness, his proof that Claire had driven him away. Now she was gone. He grabbed his keys. If she wouldn't answer her phone, he'd go to her apartment in San Jose. They'd talk face to face. Figure this out together. The drive took 35 minutes through evening traffic. Garrett's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. When he pulled up to Vanessa's apartment complex, a modern building near Santana Row, her parking spot was empty. He buzzed her unit anyway. No answer. He buzzed again, holding the button down. Nothing. Can I help you? A voice behind him made Garrett jump. An older man in maintenance coveralls stood there, keys jangling on his belt. I'm looking for Vanessa Chun. Unit 304. The man's expression shifted to recognition. Oh, she moved out. 2 days ago, I think. Came with a moving truck, cleared everything out in one afternoon. Garrett's stomach dropped. Did she leave a forwarding address? Not with me. You'd have to check with the rental office, but they're closed until morning. Did she say anything? About where she was going? The man shrugged. Just that it was sudden. Work relocation or something. Nice lady. Always paid rent on time. Garrett stood in the empty parking lot after the maintenance man left, staring up at Vanessa's dark apartment window. 2 days ago, right when Claire filed for divorce. Right when everything fell apart. His phone rang. Marcus Feldman. Where are you? Marcus asked without preamble. San Jose. What? Get somewhere private. We need to talk. Now. 20 minutes later, Garrett sat in his rental car in a Target parking lot, his phone on speaker as Marcus delivered blow after devastating blow. Claire has recordings, Garrett. Audio recordings of our conversations discussing how to fabricate evidence against her. How we'd paint her as unstable, emotionally negligent. Every strategy we discussed about manufacturing proof of her alleged infidelity. Garrett's vision blurred. That's not possible. We used encrypted messaging. We were careful. Someone wasn't careful enough. Maybe your phone was compromised. Maybe hers was. It doesn't matter. She has them. Marcus's voice was tight. There's more. Your offshore account in the Caymans has been frozen pending investigation by the bank's compliance department. They've flagged the transactions as potentially suspicious. Can they do that? They can't, and they did. If they report it to FinCEN, you're looking at federal scrutiny. Money laundering investigations. This gets worse before it gets better. Garrett's head dropped to the steering wheel. What about the prenup? Can we use that to protect my assets? I reviewed it again. Garrett, the prenup you insisted on 6 years ago was designed to protect Claire's family wealth from any claim by you. It says nothing about protecting your assets from her. Under California community property law, she has a legitimate claim to half of everything you owned during the marriage. So I have no protection. None. After the call ended, Garrett drove to a FedEx office in Mountain View, printed Claire's divorce filing, and sat in a corner booth reading every page. The photos hit him first. Him and Vanessa on the beach, kissing at dinner, walking hand in hand through the resort. Every intimate moment documented and attached as Exhibit A through Exhibit M. Then came the financial disclosures. The offshore account transfers, listed transaction by transaction. His meetings with Marcus Feldman, complete with dates, times, and locations. Bank records showing the sale of his house, his boat, his Tesla. All of it methodically documented and legally executed. The final section detailed the prenuptial agreement. Garrett had insisted on it before the wedding, telling Claire it was standard practice for protecting both parties. He'd barely read it then, just signed where his lawyer indicated. Now, reading the actual terms, the truth crashed over him. Every protective clause favored Claire. Every vulnerability was his. She'd known. Even 6 years ago, she'd known to protect herself. Or had she? Garrett's hands shook as he gathered the papers. The timeline didn't make sense. Claire had been 25 when they married, fresh from business school, supposedly naive about legal matters. Yet the prenup was airtight, sophisticated, designed by attorneys who clearly understood how to protect inherited wealth in community property states. Had her father orchestrated it? Had Claire been playing the long game even then? At 2 a.m., Garrett sat on the motel bed, surrounded by printed divorce documents, his phone clutched in his hand. He pulled up Vanessa's contact information, the number he'd called dozens of times with no response. His thumb hovered over the call button, but he didn't press it. Instead, he opened his message history with her, scrolling back through months of conversations. She'd reached out first, he remembered now. A random Facebook message in August. Asterisk, hey stranger. Been thinking about you. Coffee sometime. Asterisk. Right after Claire's father died. Right when Garrett started researching how to claim part of the inheritance. His breathing quickened as he scrolled further. Every meetup had been Vanessa's suggestion. Every intimate moment, perfectly timed. Every photo opportunity, naturally arranged. No, he whispered to the empty room. No, that's paranoid. She wouldn't. But the doubt was there now, spreading like poison through his memories. Vanessa appearing exactly when he needed someone. Vanessa being so understanding about his marital problems. Vanessa agreeing to the Maldives without hesitation. Vanessa moving out 2 days ago, the same day Claire's divorce filing was processed. Garrett stared at her contact photo, at that smiling face he'd trusted completely, and wondered if he'd ever known her at all. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize they were playing you the whole time? How did you handle it? Let's hear your story. Marcus Feldman sat across from Garrett in a corner booth at Panera Bread on University Avenue, a manila folder thick with documents spread between them. The lunch crowd bustled around them, Stanford students, tech workers, young families, all living normal lives while Garrett's world burned. Let's start with the house, Marcus said, pulling out a spreadsheet. Sold for $12.2 million. Under California community property law, Claire is entitled to half. That's $6.1 million to her. Garrett's coffee sat untouched, cold. But I bought that house before we were married. And you've been married 6 years. She lived there, maintained it, contributed to its upkeep through household management. California courts recognize that as contribution to community property. Marcus pulled out another document. The boat sold for $420,000. Half goes to her. $210,000. The boat was purchased during the marriage with marital funds. Community property. Marcus continued without pause. The Tesla, $85,000. Half to her. Your brokerage account, $2.8 million total. Half to her, $1.4 million. Garrett's hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against the table. How much total? Marcus circled a number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Claire is legally entitled to $7.7 million from the liquidation of your assets. You're left with approximately the same amount before legal fees and taxes. Legal fees. My retainer is $50,000. This case will likely cost you $300,000 minimum by the time we're done, possibly more if Claire pursues criminal charges. Then there's capital gains tax on the asset sales, state and federal. You're looking at another $1 million in taxes. Garrett did the math in his head. $7.7 million to Claire. $300,000 in legal fees. $1 million in taxes. From a starting point of $15.4 million in assets, he'd be left with roughly $6.4 million. But that wasn't the worst part. There's another issue, Marcus said, his voice dropping. Claire's attorneys have indicated they're considering filing criminal charges. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Attempted forgery if we'd moved forward with any falsified documents. And there's the offshore account situation. What about it? Moving money offshore to hide it from a spouse during divorce proceedings is illegal. You could face federal charges for that alone. Marcus closed the folder. Garrett, I need to be direct with you. My firm is considering whether we can continue to represent you. If this turns into a criminal matter, you'll need different counsel. The words landed like physical blows. You're abandoning me? We're a family law firm, not criminal defense. And frankly, some of the partners are concerned about our reputation being associated with. Marcus trailed off delicately. With what? With what's being said about you in the community. Garrett's stomach twisted. What's being said? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Word has gotten around. Silicon Valley is a small world, especially at your level. People know about the affair, the schemes, the offshore accounts. Claire's legal team has been very strategic about what information becomes public record. As if on cue, Garrett's phone buzzed. An email from his employer's HR department. Subject line, administrative leave notification. His hands trembled as he opened it. Asterisk, Dear Mr. Rivers, effective immediately. You are being placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation into allegations of ethical misconduct. During this period, you are not to access company systems or contact clients. You will receive further communication within 10 business days regarding next steps. Asterisk. No, Garrett whispered. No, they can't. What is it? Marcus asked. Garrett showed him the email. Marcus's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Pity maybe, or relief that he'd soon be rid of this client. I've worked there for 8 years, Garrett said, his voice cracking. I built their entire West Coast division. They can't just. They can if they believe your personal conduct reflects poorly on the company. And given what's circulating. Marcus left the sentence unfinished. Another email arrived. Then another. Garrett scrolled through his inbox with growing horror. A networking contact requesting to be removed from his LinkedIn connections. A golf club membership committee asking for a meeting to discuss his continued membership status. A charity board he served on requesting his immediate resignation. They're all turning on me, Garrett said numbly. Everyone. You conspired to defraud your wife and hide assets offshore. What did you expect? Marcus's voice was sharp now, his professional courtesy wearing thin. Garrett, I advised you from the beginning to be careful, to document everything, to stay within legal bounds. You chose to push those boundaries. You helped me. I provided legal strategy within the bounds of the law. You're the one who opened offshore accounts and discussed fabricating evidence. Marcus stood, gathering his documents. I'll send you a referral for a criminal defense attorney. Someone who specializes in white-collar cases. You're going to need them. He left Garrett sitting alone in the booth, surrounded by the lunch crowd and the wreckage of his life. That evening, Garrett walked through downtown Palo Alto in a daze. He passed the restaurants where he'd closed deals over expensive dinners, the coffee shop where he'd met with investors, the boutique where he'd bought Claire a birthday present just last year. A couple walked past him, the woman laughing at something her partner said. Neither of them glanced at Garrett. He was invisible now, just another person on the street, unremarkable and forgettable. He stopped outside Il Fornaio, the Italian restaurant where he and Claire had celebrated their 5th anniversary. Through the window, he could see couples dining by candlelight, sharing wine, living the life he'd once had. His phone buzzed. A text from a college friend. Asterisk, hey man, heard some stuff going around. Is it true? Call me if you need to talk. Asterisk. Garrett didn't call. He couldn't explain. Couldn't defend himself. Couldn't admit that everything people were saying was true. He'd destroyed his marriage to chase money he could never have. He'd betrayed the woman who'd loved him, plotted against her while she grieved her father, manufactured a fake affair as a weapon. And now he had nothing. No house. No marriage. No reputation. No career. Just $6 million and a criminal investigation hanging over his head. The irony wasn't lost on him. $6 million would have seemed like a fortune once. Now it felt like ashes. If you could say one thing to Garrett right now, what would it be? Would you offer advice, call him out, or tell him what he should have done differently? Comment below. Garrett sat across from a private investigator named David Torres in a coffee shop in Mountain View. David came recommended by a colleague who'd used him during his own messy divorce. Discreet, thorough, willing to work in gray areas. I need you to find someone, Garrett said, sliding a photo of Vanessa across the table. Vanessa Chun. Last known address was San Jose, but she moved out last week. No forwarding information. David studied the photo. What am I looking for exactly? Everything. Where she is now. Where she works. Her background. Who she's been in contact with. Garrett hesitated. And I need to know if she had any connection to my wife before we reconnected. Your wife's name? Claire Rivers. David made a note. This'll take a few days. My retainer is $5,000. Done. 4 days later, David called. We need to meet. In person. They sat in David's car in a parking garage in Sunnyvale, the investigator's laptop open between them. Vanessa Chun doesn't exist, David said flatly. Not the way you know her. Garrett's blood ran cold. What do you mean? The marketing firm she claimed to work for? I called them. No record of any Vanessa Chun ever being employed there. I checked business licenses, LinkedIn employment history, tax records. Nothing matches what she told you. That's impossible. I knew her in college. We dated for. That part's real. Vanessa Chun did attend Stanford with you. But after graduation, her trail gets murky. She worked for a few different companies, nothing stable, lots of gaps. Then 3 years ago, she started working as a consultant. What kind of consultant? David pulled up a document on his laptop. Litigation support. Specifically, she works with divorce attorneys gathering evidence, conducting surveillance, building cases. She's hired to get close to targets and document their behavior. Garrett's hands went numb. No, that's not. I'm sorry, but it gets worse. David pulled up phone records. I obtained her call logs through, let's say, unofficial channels. Over the past 4 months, she's made 27 calls to a number registered to Jennifer Park's law office. Jennifer Park. That's Claire's attorney. Exactly. Garrett stared at the call logs, dates and times swimming before his eyes. The first call was dated August 15th, 2 days before Vanessa had sent him that first Facebook message. She was working for Claire, Garrett whispered. The whole time. That would be my assessment, yes. After David left, Garrett sat in his rental car, his mind racing through every interaction with Vanessa, every coffee date, every intimate confession, every perfectly timed photograph in the Maldives. He drove to Phil's Coffee on California Avenue, where he'd first met Vanessa for their reunion. The same barista who'd been working that day was behind the counter, a young woman with purple hair and multiple piercings. Garrett waited until the afternoon rush died down, then approached. Hey, I'm hoping you can help me with something. I was here a few months ago, meeting a woman. He showed her Vanessa's photo. Do you remember seeing her? The barista squinted at the image. Maybe. We get a lot of people through here. She has dark hair, about this tall, usually orders a mint mojito coffee. Oh, yeah, I remember her. She's a regular. Or was. The barista paused. Actually, now that I think about it, I saw her here with another woman a few times. Before you came in that day. Garrett's heart hammered. What did the other woman look like? Blonde. Pretty. Professional looking. They'd sit in the corner, talking really intensely. I remember thinking maybe they were business partners or something. How long before I came? 2, 3 weeks maybe? Garrett showed her a photo of Claire. Was this the woman? The barista's eyes widened. Yeah, that's her. Are they in trouble or something? No. Thank you. That's all I needed. Back in his motel room, Garrett opened his laptop and pulled up his Facebook message history with Vanessa. Her first message, *K stranger. Been thinking about you. Would love to catch up if you're around. *. The date, August 17th. Claire's father had died on August 12th. 5 days. Vanessa had waited exactly 5 days after Richard Montgomery's death to reach out. Garrett scrolled through every subsequent message, seeing them now with horrifying clarity. Vanessa asking about his marriage. Vanessa offering sympathy when he complained about Claire's emotional distance. Vanessa suggesting they meet more often. Vanessa agreeing so readily to the Maldives. Oh my God, he breathed. He tore through his car, searching for evidence, and found it in the glove compartment. Receipts from the Maldives trip. He'd saved them all, planning to use them as documentation of his emotional crisis that drove him to seek comfort elsewhere. One receipt stopped him cold. An airline ticket confirmation for Vanessa's flight. Paid with her own credit card, not his. But he remembered paying for both tickets. He'd told himself he was being generous, treating her to a romantic escape. Yet here was proof she'd paid for herself, which meant she'd had her own reasons for going, her own agenda. Garrett spread everything across the motel bed: David's report, the phone records, printed Facebook messages, the receipts. He grabbed a notepad and started building a timeline. August 12th, Claire's father dies. August 15th, first call from Vanessa to Jennifer Park's office. August 17th, Vanessa messages Garrett on Facebook. September 2nd, first coffee meeting at Phil's, after Vanessa met with Claire there multiple times. October, regular meetings, growing intimacy, Vanessa encouraging Garrett to share marital complaints. October 15, Garrett books Maldives trip. October 20, Vanessa books own ticket. November 1 to 14, Maldives vacation, extensive photo documentation. November 16th, Claire files for divorce with comprehensive evidence. November 17th, Vanessa moves out of her apartment. Every piece fit. Every moment had been orchestrated. Vanessa hadn't been his salvation. She'd been his destruction. But why? Why would Claire go to such elaborate lengths? She could have just filed for divorce the moment she discovered his scheming. She didn't need Vanessa to prove anything. Unless the affair wasn't just evidence. Unless it was punishment. Garrett stared at his timeline, at the web of connections and calculated moments, and felt something shift in his chest. Not just betrayal. Not just humiliation. Fear. Because if Claire and Vanessa had planned all of this together, if they'd engineered his entire downfall with this level of precision, then what else had they planned? What else was coming? The crazy part? This isn't even the full story yet. What do you think Vanessa's real connection to Claire is? Drop your theories in the comments. Garrett's phone rang at 11 p.m., David Torres's name flashing on the screen. He answered on the first ring. "I found something," David said without preamble. "You're going to want to sit down for this." Garrett was already sitting on the motel bed, surrounded by his timeline notes and evidence. "What is it?" "Vanessa Chun is her real name, but she's not who she told you she was. She's a professional litigation consultant. She works exclusively with high-end divorce attorneys, specializing in evidence gathering and surveillance. Her clients pay her to get close to targets, document their behavior, build cases." The room tilted. "How long has she been doing this?" "At least 5 years. She's worked on maybe 20 cases that I can verify. All high-net-worth divorces. All involving spouses suspected of hiding assets or planning fraud." David paused. "Garrett, she's good at what she does. Very good. And very expensive." "How expensive?" "Her rate is typically $50,000 per case, plus expenses. For complex long-term operations, double that." Garrett's mouth went dry. Claire had paid Vanessa potentially $100,000 to seduce him, document their affair, and destroy his life. "I'm sending you photos now," David said. "Surveillance images from the past 3 months." Garrett's phone buzzed with incoming messages. He opened them one by one, his hands trembling. Photo after photo of Vanessa entering and leaving Jennifer Park's law office. Timestamps range from August through November, the entire duration of their relationship. "She was reporting to Claire's attorney the whole time," Garrett whispered. "Every coffee date, every text message, every moment in the Maldives. All of it was her job. You weren't having an affair, Garrett. You were being investigated." After David hung up, Garrett sat in the darkness, staring at the photos. The woman he'd trusted, the woman he'd confided in, the woman he'd been planning a future with. She'd been an operative all along. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. No words, just an image. Garrett opened it, and his blood turned to ice. The photo showed Claire and Vanessa sitting together at a cafe, Blue Bottle Coffee in San Francisco, based on the distinctive blue cups. They sat close, their fingers intertwined on the table between them, both laughing at something off camera. The intimacy was unmistakable. Not business partners. Not attorney and consultant. Something more. Garrett zoomed in on the timestamp in the corner of the photo. August 19th, 11:47 a.m. 3 months ago. 1 week after Richard Montgomery's funeral. 2 days after Vanessa first messaged him on Facebook. A second text arrived. Asterisk, you were never the only one being played. And Garrett? We're just getting started. Asterisk. No, Garrett breathed. His fingers shook as he tried to call the number. It rang once, then an automated message. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Another text appeared, this time with an attachment. Garrett opened it with a growing sense of dread. IRS investigation notification. Offshore account activity. Cayman Islands account hashtag 847392. Asterisk, this notice is to inform you that your offshore financial activity has been flagged for investigation regarding potential tax evasion and money laundering. You are required to respond within 30 days with comprehensive documentation of all transfers. Asterisk. The document went on for 3 pages. Official. Legal. Devastating. They reported me, Garrett said to the empty room. They actually reported me to the IRS. A final text arrived. Asterisk, see you in court. C and V asterisk. Garrett stared at those initials. C and V, Claire and Vanessa. Partners. Conspirators. Lovers. The pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. Claire hadn't just hired Vanessa as a consultant. They'd been working together, planning together, laughing together while he walked straight into their trap. Every moment of his affair had been theater. Every intimate confession he'd made to Vanessa had been recorded and delivered to Claire. Every photo, every receipt, every piece of evidence he thought he was creating to use against Claire, all of it had been exactly what they wanted him to create. They played him perfectly. Garrett stood and walked to the motel window, pressing his forehead against the cold glass. Below, Highway 101 stretched into the darkness, headlights streaming past in endless ribbons of white and red. People going somewhere, living their lives, moving forward. He was stuck, trapped, destroyed. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the disconnected number, this time a video file. Against his better judgment, Garrett opened it. The video showed Claire and Vanessa in what looked like Jennifer Park's conference room, champagne glasses raised in a toast. The audio was clear. To Garrett, Claire said, her voice cold and satisfied. Who thought he could steal from me? To men who underestimate us, Vanessa added, clinking her glass against Claire's. They both laughed, and the video ended. Garrett's legs gave out. He sank to the floor, his back against the wall, his phone still clutched in his hand. $6 million left. His career destroyed. His reputation shattered. Criminal investigations pending. And somewhere out there, Claire and Vanessa were celebrating. The messages kept coming through the night, each one more calculated than the last. Screenshots of news articles about white-collar crime sentences. Links to California Bar Association ethics complaints filed against Marcus Feldman. A photo of Garrett's former office building with the caption, "They're hiring your replacement." At 3 a.m., Garrett finally turned off his phone. But he couldn't stop seeing that photo. Claire and Vanessa's fingers intertwined. Their laughter, their partnership. He'd thought he was hunting $80 million. Instead, he'd been the prey from the very beginning. And the worst part? The message that had come through at 2:47 a.m., just before he powered down his phone. Asterisk, this is just the beginning. You took years from Claire. We're taking everything from you. One piece at a time. Sleep well, Garrett. Asterisk. He stood at the window as dawn broke over Silicon Valley, watching the tech buses roll past carrying workers to their Monday morning jobs, and knew with absolute certainty that this wasn't over. Claire and Vanessa had destroyed him, but they weren't finished yet. If you need to know what happens next, you're not alone. But here's the thing. Part 2 only happens if you show me this story matters to you. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and most importantly, comment Part 2. Right now if you want to see Garrett's world completely fall apart. Don't just watch, participate. This is how we decide what gets made next.